and welcome to ET Studios AI Horizons in association with ETCIO. Today, we're going to be taking a look at how AI is powering startups. We have a very interesting individual in our studios today. That's Jitesh Bajaj. He quit a high-powered corporate life to start his own journey in entrepreneurship, and he's now started Advance and Tetris Innovations. He will soon be telling you about them. Firstly, a very warm welcome to our studios, Jitesh.
Thanks, Shilpa, for the invitation. Glad to be here.
It's fantastic to have you here today. First off, can you tell us what inspired you to quit this corporate life and start your journey in entrepreneurship, especially with a quick succession of two startups, Tetris Innovations and Advance?
Great. So, 20 years in corporate. The portfolios I have led was around AI, innovation, and digital. And I was witnessing firsthand the transformative power of such technologies, and was also questioning always that why we have startups always from China and US, which is leading the change. But at the same time, there was very interesting figures from India too. By 2023, we had around 1 lakh startups registered with the projection of becoming a million, and another 10,000 unicorns we are expecting in the next 10 years. This number is very motivating, very, very motivating. Now, this is where I wanted to be part of this growth story, and also wanted to use my experience quite differently. That can I work with these startups from an early stage standpoint, shape them, make them global scalable. And this is where Tetris and Advance happened. So Tetris is more about an incubation, but works as a co-founder. And we emphasize on AI usage from the day one. And Advance is trying to fill a gap at a grassroots level, where we want to embed AI skills at an early stage in a student life. So we have a more job creators in future.
All right. Okay, fantastic. Now, when it comes to AI, the KPMG report says that 57% of business professionals who were surveyed felt that Gen AI is imperative for their organization to grow. And now all organizations have rolled out AI and implemented, but the cycle of implementation is very slow, right? I'm sure you've been witness to this. Can you tell us why that is and how it can be solved?
Yeah, so this is quite an interesting question. See, enterprise AI will always have a longer cycle time for various reasons. One, there are data security concerns. There are a lot of risk assessment happens. Plus, you might be seeing in market that every other day there is a new technology. So enterprise figures out, where do I invest? The investment we are making, is it the right investment or not? And it will become redundant completely. So decision-making process takes long. But what I recommend always, that establish an AI strategy is very important. Normally, enterprise start with use cases from bottom up, but they miss on the larger picture. If you have an AI strategy developed, at least we will know what overall potential it can gain. If that strategy is there, then we can figure out the projects, use cases, and the right skills we need. And this is where we can capitalize what is the overall vision for this enterprise to communicate internally, but as well as to how do you position the enterprise to the outer world.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now at Tetris Innovations and Advance, you use AI significantly. Can you explain to us how at Tetris Innovations you use AI to power your incubator? And at Advance, how are you spreading AI, information about AI to students globally?
Yeah, see, AI is at our heart at Tetris. We use AI to even validate the idea, validate scale, build products, validate products. And from a scale standpoint, how do we even understand the new business model? So for example, if you're in Tetris and building on a healthcare app, and I'm using in testing phase as a user of that healthcare app, which features we are using as a consumer, I can have a real-time access, understand what is making more sense, and then develop my product roadmap before even the launch. So what happens? You are ready to launch your product in just 2 to 3 months. Versus the cycle time we have seen previously has taken 1 year itself to launch the product itself. So we want founders to understand the potential of AI in their business idea from the day one. Do not ignore it, because suddenly your business model can become redundant because of the other advancements which are happening. Now, through Advance, we want to simplify AI. It's a very difficult term sometimes been observed. It's always been associated with use of tech. Right? But normally the strategic implications of AI are not discussed. So what we are trying to do is, through Advance, we are building product for grade 4 to 12th and trying to provide AI by picking up some examples from daily life. So, for example, we use many devices. We use AI even in games. But does students really know that? So with that information, we have laid out in a product. So once they read it, they understand what potential has happened with AI. So it gives them a choice which specialization they want to pick up in future in a more informed way. Normally, it has always been Python coding when it comes to the AI itself.
True. And then now with all the disruptions that are happening, Python and coding might itself become redundant in the next few years.
Yes, so it's quite interesting and challenging as well. That how do we keep ourselves ready to deal with future requirements?
World over, there are regulations when it comes to AI. Europe has very stringent regulations. America is talking about it. But in India, when I'm talking about regulations, I'm not talking about guidelines, but at a legislative level, there are no rules that organizations have to follow for AI to be implemented. What are the cons and the long-term effects that we are going to see of this laxity?
You picked up US, and there is another player in this, China. Right? Without government intervention, you cannot just, pull products without their information. America is quite liberal, but also they have some basic regulations to follow before launch the company. India is somewhere I think we are still finding our stand, right? There are no specific regulation by the law of the land is available where founders can just follow and be very much practical about it in deploying that in their products or service they want to launch. This can become a risk in future because you have pulled up a business right now based on the availability of freedom you have today. If something comes tomorrow which completely asks you to change your business model, that's a massive risk we are living with. So it's important we do that right now. At least we start on this, start talking about it. We don't talk about it, and so that founder at their own accountability consider those. But yes, Europe has a great reference for us to pick up from. I think they have understood the implications. They have still given the importance to the people who are associated with it. So a lot to learn from that, but also find a right balance. So innovation doesn't die, but also we are a bit watchful of the certain regulations which we need to follow.
Speaking of innovation, you've written a book, India's Innovation Imperative, that talks about the need for India to lead and not follow. Yeah. What role is AI playing in this leadership?
It's a very interesting question. I have my own theory on it. See, if we look at globally, right, everybody is trying to figure out how to leverage AI. Whether you are a store owner, you are an enterprise, you are a big corporation, or you are a small startup. And this is with every nation. And this is where when everybody is figuring out, I believe this is where India has a potential to be the leader in that space. Both thinking strategically on AI, building products, and making themselves as a global innovation hub for any future AI development itself. So I totally believe that India has the right ingredients. Now we have very bold founders with us. We hear news every day. We have the right skill. Majority of startups you see worldwide have Indian founders, or at least CTOs are Indians. So I think we have access to everything. It's just we have to continue on this journey, position ourselves at every touch point we do, whether at your level, my level, or corporate level, that India is the key market to play in from an AI standpoint.
Staying on your book, you also speak about how AI can bridge the gap from government agencies to private companies. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. See, I believe if we want to make innovation happen in a faster way and more meaningful way, there are few parties are involved: government, private sector, media, startups, investors, education units, etc. And I believe AI can help with some common data and insights to everybody who is involved. I'll give an example. Governments are working with universities to figure out the skill gaps we have. And universities try to change the curriculum based on the insights which government is providing. But at the same time, same insights are available for corporate to upskill their training plans, hiring plans. So what happens with this coordination? Corporate gets skilled labor. I graduate as a student with the right relevant skills which are applicable for a job. And we also meet our economic goals. So this insights and data which is coming in a right circular economy and being utilized by three parties correctly, this is where we can find where we need to fix and where we can leverage.
And when it comes to ethics, not much is spoken about, right? But what are the sort of ethical considerations that we must keep in mind when using AI? And you are somebody who uses it extensively. For when startups are using AI, what should they be mindful about?
I think only suggestion I will give is just think through while you're building up solutions that what potential impact it can create. If something is unethical, do consider that.
But what would you say is unethical? Like that could be a very broad term. So could you give us some examples?
Okay, so let's say we are building a solution of hiring, right? And I have a certain level of biasness because I'm using the current data. And my current data shows a trend of that historically we have hired more men versus women. The next recommendation will by default will come into the same biasness. And this is where we need to be careful that we just do not blindly accept the data, but try to transform it, try to collect more data samples, and then see that any recommendation coming from AI in future at least is non-biased. Right? So just a very, very simple example which happens in organizations. But these consideration needs to be taken place, and I believe even regulation may not be able to solve it. We have to be very thorough with our idea and see how we want to solve the problem. What problem is that? In the what way we are solving that problem.
Now, we already spoke about your 2 startups. Apparently, you have a third one in the works as well.
Yes, that's also coming up. So name I'm not announcing. But the startup is again very much tied up to the Indian ecosystem. We are trying to position India as a very attractive market for global companies so that they come in and invest in India and at least have their back office and middle office more and more in Indian community. So we are trying to acquire a lot of companies in Europe and as well as Middle East and trying to see can we leverage those organizations to generate more jobs in India. This idea is in works. Hopefully by end of January, we'll announce this company and also that how AI will play a role in this one.
That's very fast indeed. But you, in fact, you've quit your job only 8 months ago, and you made so many advancements in these last few months.
Oh, yes. So last 7 months, I'll say, see, we used to hear, right, when I was in job that this startup journey is quite struggling. It takes a lot. It does takes a lot. And I think I was lucky. Few things fall in place very quickly. Ideas which we were working on, investors trusted us with those ideas. They could see these are global scalable idea. So a lot of movement has happened, and we are now in a phase of expanding our team to support all these ambitions we are having. And let's try to see if we can make an impact.
Fantastic. It looks like a very exciting journey for you ahead indeed. I'm wishing you all the very best in that. And thank you so much for joining us in the studios today.
Thank you, Shilpa, once again.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. And also thank you for watching this episode of AI Horizons. For more such interesting conversations from such leaders, remember to stay tuned.